think we can begin.
Yep, give us 2 seconds to get everything streaming and recording. There we go.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Darius Shanfar. I am the treasurer and chair of the Finance Committee of the City of Albany Industrial Development Agency. So I call this meeting to order of the Finance Committee at 12:21 on today, April 13th, 2 days before tax day. And the first order of business today is we have myself, Susan Petto, Lee Eck, Elizabeth Staubach. I don't believe Joe Better is here.
Nope.
And Anthony Gaddy will be coming along shortly. So we do have a quorum for the Finance Committee meeting at this time. Anthony should be here shortly, as I mentioned. First order of business is I'd call for a motion because the meeting minutes from the previous meeting have been distributed. I call for a motion to waive the reading and to accept them as presented. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Susan? Second. Any questions, comments, criticisms, deletions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The next order of business is a report of the Chief Financial Officer, quarterly budget update. I'm not sure who's handling that from staff.
We'll have Amy Thompson from BST give the presentation.
Terrific.
So for the first quarter of 2022, we were over budget on agency fees by $548,000. And this was due to closings that occurred in the first quarter of 2022. Slightly under budget for interest of $612 for a total over budget revenue of $547,000. For expenses, we were under budget by $19,475. This was mainly due to the sublease for the Arbor Hill Community Center for $18,750, and other miscellaneous was under budget by a little over $5,000. That would be due to us budgeting for in-person meetings at the Albany Capitol Center in the first quarter.
Great.
Could you please remind me of the change with the community center? I brought that down.
That is a delay in billing that's resulting in that at this point. And so currently there's no change beyond previous. We're waiting for invoicing.
Okay, so that money just rolls into the next quarter and
You'll catch up.
Making the same payments. Continue. Okay, thank you.
Well, being more than $500,000 over budget and revenue is a good thing. So great. Okay, on to the next order of business. We have, let's see, unfinished business in Lofts of Pine Hills. This is a project that was previously introduced, but the scope has changed. So we are here to take another look at it. It is on page 5. The summary is on page 5 of our materials. And I will kick it over to staff to give us a little presentation.
Thanks, Darius. So as the chair mentioned, last month, this project was discussed in the original approving resolution was extended. And we'll do a little recap of why that was needed. I'll also mention that we have numerous representatives from the applicant here with us today that can speak in detail to the revised project. So as a recap, in March of 2021, the agency approved sales tax, mortgage recording tax, and real property tax abatements through the project evaluation and assistance framework. The original project proposed to construct an approximate 125,000 square foot, 5-story mixed use residential commercial retail structure that was planned to house 97 market rate apartments and about 6,000 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. Due mainly to some site conditions, specifically soil conditions, the developer needed to re-examine the scope of the project. As such, staff has received an amended project application. Of note, the amended project has been approved by the planning board and consists of the construction of 2 new buildings, not 1 building, with a slightly smaller total square footage of about 105,000 square feet over the two buildings. And the unit count has dropped slightly. So these two structures will now be planned to contain 83 market rate apartment units, and the commercial square footage decreased slightly to about 5,500 square feet on the ground floor. There will also be 69 off-street parking spaces. Of note, staff had provided kind of a breakout of some of the differences between the original project and the amended version in front of us now as part of board-only materials. Just a couple high points from that and some takeaways. The total investment has increased. The cost of the project has increased. Materials cost has increased. Additionally, as part of the planning board approval process and the reapplication process to us, the revised application, a revised letter from the assessor was received, and the improved assessed value had decreased for the new project. So the effect of that was the level of abatement through the project evaluation and assistance framework that the new project qualified for decreased by one abatement schedule. They had previously been approved for the community commitment abatement schedule for projects with units with an improved assessed value of 100,000 or more. That has dropped to the abatement schedule for projects with the units with approved assessed value of between 90 and 99,000. So overall, what that has served to do is really decrease the total overall abatements that the applicant is now requesting through this revised application. I'll turn it over to the committee for any additional questions on this piece.
Anybody have any questions? Anything they want to discuss? I mean, we can go through the matrix as well, which is on page 9, I think. If that's okay with everybody, I think it lays out pretty well why this is a project that's worthy of serious consideration by our body.
Sure. Would you like me to run through that point by point, Darius?
Yeah, sure. I think that'd be a good idea.
Absolutely.
I can keep my phone straight.
Great. So of note, the actual points that were assigned to the revised project have remained exactly the same as with the original project. And we will run through those, starting with target geography. The project received 1 point for being located in a distressed census tract. The project received 1 point for being located in a high vacancy census tract. And the project received 1 point for being part of a neighborhood plan, that plan being Midtown Colleges and Universities study. Under the identified priority header, the project received a point for being an identified catalyst site. Again, it was an identified development opportunity per the Midtown Colleges and Universities study. And the project received 1 point for being a community catalyst, as it is supporting multiple initiatives in the Albany 2030 plan. Under identified growth area, the project received 1 point for being in the existing cluster for education. Under permanent jobs, project received 1 point for projecting the creation of 5 full-time equivalent positions. And under construction jobs, the project received 2 points for an estimated 150 projected construction jobs on site. For financial commitment, the project received 3 cumulative points for being an investment in excess of $25 million. Again, this is a $30 million investment. And for the community commitment portion, the project has elected to include MWBE. 20% of the value of construction contracts will be performed by MWBE entities. Secondly, EEO workforce utilization, 15% of the construction workforce will be minorities or women, and also the inclusion of 90% regional labor during the construction process.
Terrific. Thank you.
If I could just
Um,
remind the committee that if it wishes to speak about the financial history of the project, that we can enter into executive session for such purpose.
yeah,
I'll
based on
note-
material. Go ahead.
I'll note on that note, Darius, that we do, just for public record, when we are at this point in the analysis of a project, we are doing the cost benefit analysis across every project that we do. That takes into account the community benefits that the project brings. So that's the matrix that Andy just walked through, the point system. But we also do look at the financial need of each of the projects. We do that through the framework analysis, but we also do an in-depth analysis of the project's pro forma, the specific financials of each project. And you do have that staff analysis provided in your board only documents. Those are privileged and confidential financial documents from the project. And at this point, we would typically review those in executive session with the committee at your pleasure, if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, I myself don't have a need. I think if anybody has any questions on them and wants to discuss them, I'm more than happy to go into executive session, but my review didn't see anything, particularly unusual or something that requesting information or more information on privileged material. But if anybody does have questions and want to enter into it, we're more than happy to do that. I also would note, just for the public's sake, on page 48 of the materials is where you see a detailed revenue breakdown of what is the comps between what exists already with the property and what would be the taxing benefit to the jurisdiction through pilots. So if anybody would like to go into executive session, let us know now or forever hold your peace.
I agree, Darius, and thank you to staff for the extra information they provided. That was very helpful to see the comparisons.
Just for clarity, can the person with the phone number that ends in 5857 just please identify yourself for the record?
Hello? Is it a recent joiner?
Yes, and it looks like
Yeah,
it went off mute.
this is Brent Kosak with BBL Construction.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? I think we've chewed through this project already, not necessarily the changes to it that are brought us here today. But I do, want to restate for the record here that this is exactly the kind of infill development that I personally like to see in my city. I think it's it's a big plus for the neighborhood. I think that's what I expect. I think I expect to see spinoff development because of it, so in the immediate area, and redevelopment of a lot of the other two families that are around there. That's what that's what you tend to see when these projects occur. I think we're seeing it in other areas of the city where projects like this have occurred. But if anybody has anything else they want to add or any questions they want to add, developers, they are here today to take those questions. Hearing none, I guess we can go immediately to the question at hand, which is to have where is it? Let me go back up to, here we go. So I'd ask for a motion for a positive recommendation for the amended approving resolution to be presented to the full board at the next meeting. Susan, Lee,
So moved.
all right. Please second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. We'll see you next week. Next order of business, unfinished business, is TRPS Lark LLC. Again, we have discussed this at our previous meetings. It's another kind of infill development project right off of Lark in Delaware. It is Again, like I said, another more infill development that I think is a positive development for the city. But Andy, if you want to take us through this one. It's
Absolutely.
49 of materials.
Thank you. TRPS Lark LLC is a project that proposes to construct an approximately 37,500 square foot, 4-story apartment complex containing 40 residential workforce housing units. Of note, a portion of the currently vacant project site was previously owned by the Albany Community Development Agency. The applicant, Mr. Stein, is here with us today. And what we'll do next is we'll run through a detailed rundown of the project summary, and we'll also work through the scoring mechanism from the framework on a point-by-point basis. Looking at the revenue gain to the taxing jurisdictions, comparing what the status quo taxes over the course of the abatement period are expected to be, about $103,000 compared to the projected pilot payments, which is roughly $1.3 million. The net benefit is approximately $1.2 million over the course of the 18-year requested assistance period. Property value increase. The current value of the parcels at hand are just over $165,000. The anticipated future value is $3.36 million for a net increase of just under $3.2 million. At the end of the pilot period, the project is anticipated to make annual tax payments to the taxing jurisdictions of approximately $245,800. This is a $4.9 million total investment. And we will momentarily run through the community benefits that the project will be providing point by point. As we do with all projects requesting real property tax abatements, the Capital District Regional Planning Commission was requested by staff to conduct an economic impact analysis through IMPLAN on the temporary construction impact that we expected to happen on site, which has been input into the project summary. The total effect, inclusive of direct, indirect, and induced over the course of construction, is projected to be $6.6 million. This job is projected to create 165 construction jobs. The assistance being requested includes sales tax exemptions, real property tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax exemptions. The real property tax exemptions are in line with what is provided through the framework for projects assessed at an improved, for projects that have an improved assessed value per unit between $80,000 and $90,000. I'll give everyone a second. I believe page 52 of the packet has our one-page framework scoring sheet. I'll give everybody a second to get there if they want to read along. All right. Starting at the top under target geography, the project receives 1 point for being in a high vacancy census tract. Project receives 1 point for being in a neighborhood plan, that plan being the Park South Urban Renewal Plan. Identified priority, the project receives a point for being located on a tax exempt or vacant parcel, or parcels in this case. And the project receives 1 point for being an identified catalyst site within the Park South Urban Renewal Plan. Under identified growth area, the project receives 1 point for being in an existing cluster, that being medical and or education. Coming down to job creation, project receives 3 cumulative points for an expected 165 construction jobs. Financial commitment, project is just under a $5 million investment, so there's a point there. And for the 10th point for eligibility for community commitment, the project is committing to utilizing 90% regional labor during the construction process.
Terrific.
As mentioned on the previous project, the financial projections and staff analysis have been previously disseminated to the board. And again, the applicant is here with us today to answer any specific questions we may have.
Thank you.
Derek,
And
just a note that as we are considering revamping and updating the matrix, both of the two projects we've looked at today have used the same plans to gain points under targeted geography neighborhood plan and identified priority catalyst site. We have seen this quite a bit before. As we're revamping, that might be something we might want to consider updating or segregating or being a little more specific. So inclusion in those plans, while it does get to separate categories, might be a little more distinct.
That's great. And that's something we can definitely look at. I'll remind the group too that the catalyst site is used when there is a specific site within the plan that is targeted. So you may have a property 3 doors down that was not targeted as a specific site that would get a point for being in the plan area and contributing to revitalization. But it gets that extra point if it was cited in the city's plan as being a priority target redevelopment site.
And again, for the record, this is a vacant lot currently, which is why it's an appropriate site, or one of the reasons why. For the public's sake, if anyone wants a detailed revenue breakdown and comparison of the benefit to the tax and jurisdictions, it's on page 91. Does anybody, again, the financials that are privileged have been distributed to us already to take a look at. We can go into executive session if anybody has any issues with them. Or any questions or anything that they want to cover. And again, the builders are here today to answer any other questions that we might have. Does anybody have any questions or points they wish to raise?
Just checking on an update on the parking situation since the builders are here with us.
Mr. Stein, if you're on.
Sorry, unmuting. Just unmuting. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no
we're
worries.
progressing very well. We've already produced one and have several other leases behind it. Just working through some technical issues with legal counsel of Albany, which should be hopefully rectified shortly. But other than that, we've got a lot of good commitments for people, and we have seen no foreseeable problem getting the leases for the existing spots whatsoever.
Great.
We do recognize that parking, of course, is a planning board issue, not our issue, but just checking to see how that might.
No, appreciate it. I
affect
know
the
it was a tough
schedule.
topic, and yep, no, we know it's a tight topic, and we're keeping to exactly the USDO as agreed to with planning.
Great, thank you.
Terrific.
Thank you.
As an
Any other
agency, we'll typically look at the likelihood of the project moving forward. And so it does have, the project does have its approvals with the conditional approval to satisfy the parking requirement. If, again, they're pacing through concurrently with our review process on that particular piece. So we'll keep that in mind as we move forward with the project.
Thank you. And, to reiterate something that I think a point that Sarah makes on a regular basis, as we all do, that these go through the planning process first before they come to our body for the package of abatements that go forward. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right. Well, in that case, I would ask for a motion for a positive recommendation for a public hearing resolution so we can move this project forward to the next step.
So moved.
All right, Lee, Susan,
Second,
all those in favor?
Aye.
I think Tony's with us now, correct?
Yes.
All right, terrific. All right, well, great. On to the next order of business, new business. Man Realty LLC, project introduction. It's office building on the corner of State Street and South Swan Street. It's been an office building for many, many years, and it looks like the developers want to do what so many others have done in downtown, which is turn an office building into apartments and/or retail space. So I'll turn it over to Andy, I think, for project introduction.
Excellent. Thank you. So
Thank you.
staff will give a brief introduction and turn the floor over to the applicant and/or the representative of the applicant, which is also Ron Stein in this case.
And I
So-
want to point out page 95 of the materials.
Yes, great. As the chair noted, Man Realty LLC is a project that is going to be located at 90 South Swan or 244 State Street. Those addresses are kind of used interchangeably, but that is at the corner of State and South Swan. And the project proposes to redevelop the underutilized approximate 44,000 square foot building and redevelop it into a 4-story apartment complex containing approximately 61 market rate residential apartments and approximately 1,000 square feet of ground floor commercial retail space. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant for a little more detailed description of what the proposed project is.
Hi, David or Schneider, do you want to walk through just a brief description of the project? And this is Ron Stein, and thank you for the vote before. I didn't get to say thank you. I was on mute.
No worries. So lead us through it.
Ron, you may not be able to see, but they are still on mute. So I'm not sure if, and for the committee's.
Hello.
Oh, David or
good.
Schneider?
No,
Oh, there
you're
you go.
Great.
Yeah, this is Schneider. My internet cut out just as they called on me. I caught the tail end of that. Can you repeat the question so I can? Now I think I'm back.
There's one introduction, just an introduction of the project.
Okay, so this is a project, was a office building right across from the LLB building that we bought long time ago, like 2015, hoping to rent it out as offices to, either a federal agency or anyone. And, everyone knows what's happened to offices in Albany in that area in the last couple of years. And it's happened to us too. Our occupancy basically went down year over year till a couple of years ago, we basically had nothing left. And we were like, well, we couldn't get a lease even at half of market rates. So we put together a plan, see if we can make it into apartments. And we were able to do that. We were able to put in an application with the planning board and get approval for 61 market rate, 61 units, plus a small commercial, some other common area stuff like a common area, like a workspace, kind of WeWork style thing, small gym. And yeah, hopefully we can make some useful use out of this space and make it an asset to the community and not just an empty building.
Agreed.
These are mostly smaller apartments, or they would be smaller apartments geared, I would assume, to staffers and for state government.
Yeah, similar. Pretty much all 1-bedrooms.
Right. Any questions from anybody? Anything further that we've missed? All right, we'll consider the project introduced. And we look forward to further information discussion on it. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Look forward to you guys next month again for everything. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you from our side as well.
All right, so now we are on to requests for proposals that were set separately and not part of the materials per se. But Sarah, do you want to take us through the RFPs? We have 3 RFPs that we're looking to do.
I'll have Tom walk us through that, but just setting the stage, this is step 1 in our matrix refresh for the project evaluation and assistance framework. This is helping us to get foundational baseline information across market sectors to be able to help us with that endeavor. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Tom to take us through.
Great. Yeah, and I was going to start with that, what Sarah said exactly is that, This is a year where we're looking to kind of reevaluate and recalibrate the project evaluation assistance framework. Just as a refresher, the board had approved, or we had implemented the project evaluation and assistance framework back in 2016. That was a 18-month long process, and looking at some of the minutes, and that certainly has transformed how we evaluate projects. And it's been well received from both its clarity around the process as well as our agency's evaluation of projects. But to get that process going in earnest, we need to really update the market data that we have. So the way we've approached this is to issue 3 requests for proposals. One would be focused on just collecting residential market data, looking at projections for about 5-year projections. One looking at more of the commercial market, so looking at industrial, office, retail, and then development sales, and sort of getting more of a comp database of what those rents look like, as well as where the projections are going. And then the last one is affordable housing, which is, as we've talked about at staff level, is really not something that exists as a market study. It's very difficult to do an affordable housing market study, but what we're looking to do here is really kind of have like sort of a one-stop document that compiles market indicators, some waiting list surveys, available funding sources for affordable housing projects, and really try to get a better sense of where the needs are within the affordable housing market. But again, this is really step 1 for updating the assistance framework.
Great, thank you.
I'll note that the board did budget for these items. This was something that had been approved right at the outbreak of the pandemic, unfortunately. And at that time, prudently, the board really wanted to let things even out a little bit before we went back out for market data. And so this will also help as we're coming out of the pandemic to have refreshed numbers across the board in a vastly different environment that we've been in than we've been in previously.
To say that it's vastly different is an understatement.
I got to stop using the word bizarre. I've noticed I use that way too often, but that is appropriate here.
I will note just one thing that is related to this, and that the property values in the city of Albany are skyrocketing right now, and it's affecting all sectors. And it's a good thing for people want to sell, and it's a good thing for our tax base. But it's so dramatically different even in the last year that it's something we need to really kind of get a little bit more of a handle on how it's affecting housing in the city. So,
and also help us define things like skyrocketing, because skyrocketing for here may not be the same thing as in hotter markets across the country too. So to be able to sort of level set where our market demand is and what that means to the financials of projects will be really, really helpful as we start to, again, sort of re-standardize assistance that could be available.
Yep. Great. All right. We don't need a motion or anything like that. I think we're just get the RFPs out there and see what comes back.
Yep. And then the results of that we'll take back to the board.
Yeah. That's when we'll need board action. All right. Anything else on the RFPs? If not, then move on to agency update.
Great. A couple of notes here. One, starting with news that you all got over the weekend, and we'll report this out at the full board as well. As indicated at a previous board meeting, we did have a board member with an identified potential upcoming conflict. That was Bob Schofield, who, because of that potential conflict, has sent his letter of resignation to the chair. That was forwarded around to everybody over the weekend. So you do have a copy of that. We're going to notify the Common Council that we'll have that seat available and ask them to restart the process. In speaking with the chair, we talked through with Susan, is really dusting off the very recent letter that had been sent to the council as of this fall, and being able to recirculate that to them. hoping that they'll be able to start that process soon. So bittersweet news. The bad news on that front is that Bob was an incredible and longstanding board member with a lot of institutional knowledge and great insight. The sweet part of it is that our conflict of interest policy is working very well. He very early on identified a potential conflict. You all are doing your duty very well to the IDA. So just the silver lining on that one is continued accountability and transparency of this group.
And that's effective immediately?
It was.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're all sad to see Bob go, but such is life, unfortunately.
Sure.
Anything else?
Yep. So a couple of in much better news. I do want to just make everyone aware, if you hadn't seen the business review over the past week or seen the results, there was the business reviews excellence in real estate development awards that were held. Really in every single category. There were significant Albany projects, all of which have come through this body. The most transformative project was awarded to Home Leasing on Clinton Avenue for their phase 1 project there. We had Redburn win in multiple categories. Ron Stein was nominated as Developer of the Year, as was Ryan Jankow. The Cap Rep project was in there as well. So all around, just significant notice of projects that were happening in Albany. You really couldn't come away from that event not realizing the opportunity that the city of Albany presents, and also the fact that this body is integral to all of that investment, because again, you all were instrumental in each one of the projects that were recognized by that ceremony. So kudos to all of you, as well as to the great projects that we have coming through here. We're looking forward to repeats and threepeats as that award program continues to go forward.
Great.
So, good news there. We started the meeting off sort of blending between agency update and compliance update with recent public meetings legislation. We're parsing through that now. It does seem like we have another, just to reiterate on the record, it seems like we have another 60 days to be operating as we have been for the past however long this has been in our hybrid or remote environment. The permanent legislation does really favor in-person public meetings with some provisions available for extenuating circumstances. We'll get a better read on that over the next 60 days. It also seems like that is going to require a resolution of the body, potentially a public hearing as well going forward. So as we get additional guidance on that, as we hear from council and we see what other organizations are doing, we'll come back to the group with what our permanent solution would look like on that front.
Great.
And from there,
anything else? Like
the
our
rest of
visit to the meeting?
I'm sorry?
Our visit to the council meeting?
I was going to hold off on that until the CRC board meeting next week.
Okay.
Is it the CRC issue? And we can go there. We do have some compliance, and I want to take the victory lap on compliance update and turn that over to Tom or Andy on that one.
Let's be compliant.
Happy to report that all of our parish reports were submitted on March 31st. Really big shout out and thank you to Emma and Andy, who did an excellent job of really, just getting all the data, putting it together, and doing it seamlessly. So I just want to thank you both. And I think we're good on compliance for a little bit. We'll start, going through all that again. But I think for now, all of the parish reports have been submitted and have been posted to the website, and that's exciting.
Huzzah.
Exactly.
All right.
I think that's it for us.
All right. Anybody
Sure.
else?
Yeah, I have one question that when I was initially going through the Man Realty project, I had made a notation on and forgot to ask, since we still seem to have representatives from that company, could we just get some quick background on whether you've done any other projects in Albany or the Capital Region or upstate New York, please?
Just make sure you're unmuted.
Sure, do we still have you?
He may have
He's
walked
still
away
muted,
from his
so-
computer
yeah, or
too.
he
Does,
may have
does
cut
staff
out.
have any concept of that? I didn't see anything in the application.
We can follow up with the applicant and definitely speak to that at the reintroduction next month.
That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Certainly.
All right. Anything else from anybody else? Then I guess I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I thought we were gonna stay in session.
I'll second.
All right, Tony. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.